Good morning. Hello. I'd reset some alerts on this. Apple was coming near like really major support down here, so. Oh, thank you so much, Tash. ES kind of just lost strength here after tagging our 67.18 spot. 67.18.25 was our calculated area from yesterday. I was also looking to see like a lot of these reductions here kind of implied like moves around this range in here. They had odds to try turning around by 244, kind of stalled 67.14, but since they still met that price, there's still some odds they could bring this back around a little bit later. But 248 to 250 and 254 was kind of like the final period here before they kind of lost strength, and then they brought it back down here at 67.05 just before 3 o'clock. So I think the stall right here is bringing back that volatility. But like we said, there's kind of the range in between. If you guys were listening earlier, they're still holding the bottom of the zone. They still haven't quite tested this upper range yet. So we basically have equal amount of range now on both ends, off 66.93 and 66.18. And I said it earlier too. I said that we basically are stuck until one end breaks. So 6693, 9288. Okay. There we go. So these are like really good days for straddles. They basically didn't break above 88. They sustained 93. Kind of the same thing. They did the same thing, and that's why I was saying earlier, now they have to test 18 because it basically would give the, this is what I was saying earlier. I'm just copying and pasting what I said this morning. Okay, just because I don't want to get too distracted in real time. Basically, they left both sides open, okay? So they had to basically come back and retest 18 to offset that risk, because they basically had higher odds of downside because they stalled 16, I think, overnight, right? Like this area here. Do you see that? But then had tagged close to like this area here overnight. So that's like 6.5 points. Do you see that? They should be equated close to that 67.22 in terms of range. Do you guys see what I'm saying? Like the overall range down here should be very, very similar to what would get us to 6722. But the only way to do that is if they kind of met the same type of range from downside. So like right here is about like 5 to 4 points, especially like off of like the 67.13, 14. Do you see how it aligns with 18? That's basically like the equivalent of where we'd have to hit on the upside. Okay, is like this area here in order for bulls to have some better odds. So because like they came back and hit right around here, even though it's like 9.8, it was around like 4.5 to 5 points basically. Okay, so that's why there was overhead at 67.18, 67.18.25, 67.18.50. Does that make sense to you guys? Because there's still some remaining downside risk. Okay, so meeting this condition here can help offset some of this. I do think that we should have went a tiny bit higher. Like I don't think 18 was quite high enough. And then now these would give us kind of like the final ranges that we're left to work with. So like overall, maybe max range left on the session on both sides is maybe about 5 points. And to me, that makes total sense because that would align us back with our 67.22. Okay, is everyone on the same page before I stop here? Because I don't want to get too distracted streaming. just because today is a little bit very back and forth. So I don't want to miss any entries and whatnot. I had to do like 5-6 different entries today. First one I did was off the 9-9. Then I did another one off 9-7, covered off 12, did another one off the 9-7, covered half right here, covered the remaining half when we failed to break right here. Haven't re-entered yet. Kind of want to see a little bit more, because now there's both sides open. Does that make sense? Because now you've got basically room between 6688 and 6693, and you've got room between 6718 to 6722. It should be a difference of like 5 points on each side, or 6723 even. That's about 4.5 to 5 points still left on offset. Okay. I did want to watch the 1:30 window just to see if they, I think we have a Fed speaker too at 1:30, which can obviously bring in some volatility. The theme for today, I did say, was to have some straddles. So I do think that there's a little bit of risk, guys, though, because I still would have preferred the 67.1825 to 67.1850. So I still think that there's a little bit of risk. Even though they took this to 18, I don't think it was quite high enough. So odds of backtesting downside first are a little bit higher. These were kind of like the 22-point stalls right here too, off lows. And I think the full range is probably close to like basically capping us underneath 32 points. NQ, same thing. There's not really much difference. NQ basically has like some core support down here, but wider support around 24, 710, 708, 707. That's basically the equivalent of ES 6688. And then the upside overhead is right around this 24, 875, 880. Does that make sense? It's going to be the same thing. It's probably just 5 times 6.5 in points in terms of range. So probably like close to like here. Like 32 points, 33 points. Does that make sense? So like 24, 689, probably like major support on this one. Overhead on this probably going to be very similar to, you know, like this area here. Yeah, exactly, like right around this 24.9. So those are probably the max ranges on NQ today on both upside and downside. Is like this area here, and then this area down here. This area here keeps it kind of net neutral around like 24,801. So basically has to be. Yeah, it could be, but there is a Fed speaker at 1:30, so it's up to you. If you're trying to buy before the Fed speaker gets on the mic, knowing that we still have room down to 8.8, that's entirely up to you. Like I'm gonna wait at least 2 minutes to see what they do here. You could maybe put an entry in at like the 9.7 to 9.3 area, but not full size if you wanted. Like if you don't want to miss an entry or something, or you could just wait. I would say that if they're going to hold the line here before that Fed speaker, before 1:30, they probably have to retract back over that 9.9 area here before 1:30. So they'd have to like have something like this kind of a candle. Otherwise it would easily come back and retest here. So yeah, you could put it like a starter entry here, but there is room for 7 to 8 points down, just FYI. they opened around 3.8 on this. MARA is kind of just stuck in an inside range, which makes total sense. I feel like they could flag this. But I'll still watch anyway. Sometimes crypto moves late. Apple coming off that support range here. So this is also a really big spot for Apple too, which could obviously help the index. And of course they would do this like right at 130. We also had neutral close, neutral open. They did close at our minimum condition that I said yesterday of 6708 area, but still, obviously 12, 13, 14 would have been better like we discussed. This was also a 13-point break right here on ES from opening range. Here. So it's another thing to note is that these areas are also the 12, 13 points off open, guys. Okay, so they are stalling 12, 13 points off opening range, which obviously you always need to break to have any more progressive price action. So we're right on the money with like that 1825, 1875, 1925 being extremely calculated. If they retract this 9998 area here, I'm going to try a partial long. But I'll put a very tight stop just because they could easily take this back. How did you guys trade today, by the way? Well, that's why it's a neutral. That usually happens when you have neutral opens. They're two directional. I've been saying that since the open. And our ranges are basically 6688 and 671850-ish. That was pretty spot on. But you have to be able to trade both sides. And I said that very, very early this morning. That we're going to have two directional price action considering where we opened, unfortunately, but here we go. This was just in Discord. It's just a general rule of thumb opening in this yellow range here, okay? Like these are neutral opens. You can think of it as like a midpoint in the zone. It gives you odds for both ends. And we never met our overnight conditions. Overnight I wanted us to test 18 and they didn't. So that implied and still posed some risk for real time. Plus they also took it below 99. Nice. But yeah, I saw that pretty early on, but and I knew 18 would be pretty heavy, but I still was hoping that they would have broken 1825 here. That kind of is annoying because now they can still keep this on from both sides. Do you know what I'm saying? Like they can still easily keep both sides open for risk. I'm hoping that they actually don't take out 88, you guys, and instead they recycle that range for upside. Does that make sense? So like whatever room we have right here left, I would prefer that they hold the line here between this 130, 136 period and instead give us that range on upside to maybe give us some odds of 6722, 6723. Thanks, Katie. So this is This is probably going to be my max range on the session, guys. I was thinking that they could maybe tag 67.28 today, but after stalling 18 here, I don't think so. I feel like those odds are now extremely low. But we'll see. Some conditions, guys, they do have to retract back over this 9-9 here. Probably in the next 2 minutes, I would say. Does anyone have like a link to this Fed speaker by any chance? Actually, let me check the commentary on Twitter. Louisiana governor requests 1,000 National Guard troops. Where are you guys sending people? Oh, thanks, Caplogs. You're so sweet. I didn't see anything else. I did try the long guys, but like I said, I put a really tight stop around that 9-2 area just in case they bring that back. I want to see if they can get back over 66.99 here before 136, because they still tagged 9-8 here before 130, and then obviously 130 had that reduction stick, which keeps this kind of conflicted a little bit. But so my thoughts would be, if they do break right here, they would probably have to break 6700.25. 6700.25. Yeah, you guys can gift the report, but I honestly don't know how it works. And someone was saying yesterday that I don't know if someone was saying I lose money from that, but like I have no idea. Like, so I actually don't know. And I think you guys were waiting for me to answer that. I don't know. I have to ask Substack. I'm not sure how that stuff works. I don't think I do though. I don't think so. I don't know why Razor said that, but I don't think so. I have that option turned on. Like you said, just FYI, I think Izzy loses money on free subs. Might want to check with her. Maybe she's cool with it. I have no idea, though. I don't think so. I think it just gives people, like, a... Well, I mean, I guess it's, like... I don't know. I don't really care, though. It's not, like, a big deal to me. $669925 retracted here before 136, but you see what they're doing? Like, every single one of these crucial sticks to basically try to sustain, they basically reduce back range. That's what keeps the wrist still on. Like, at 136, 130. They probably want to extend this. I don't think he means, like, lose money. I think he means just, like, I wouldn't make any money. But I think it turns their sub back to free anyway. Like, it's not like they get to keep a sub. I don't think. Do you know what I'm saying? But I'll have to look into it. A lot of this, too, guys, is because they never closed above 67.06 here before 1:30. So this, or before 1 o'clock. So this hourly period could obviously have a lot more volatility beneath the neutral zone, like beneath here. I think NQ is still kind of hovering here too. Apple kind of protected its 253 spot. Tesla's still hovering here too. This one, like I said, I think it's just going to stay stuck in an inside range today because of that daily setup, but I set alerts just in case. The biggest flips that I had here earlier, remember when I was saying that we have some odds? Like back here. And that's when they finally broke. So odds were, this was a really important period at 12:18, 12:21. I've been trying to do a better job of deleting my flips here. And then 12:24. So 12:24, you see how they took it back beneath 67, 12, 67, 13? This was part of the issue. And then we had an extended period through 36 and 44. 44 did tag 14. So how can I explain this to you guys? This is like a way that they could still technically bring it back around, since they still met the 18 condition during this period and they still tagged above the 12, 13, 14. Does that make sense? Like basically this stick here can offset this stick here at 12:24. But the only issue is now the periods become so far extended, like through 130, 136, kind of like closer to like the 148, 150, basically just before 2. But do you guys understand how this candle right here is what could allow for some odds for them to sustain and potentially bring back the range? Even if it's only bringing it back to these neutral areas here, like between 08, 10, 12. Have we hit enough range, guys, today to be technically considered max ranges for the session? So by the way, 9.9 isn't quite enough right here based on these reductions. Like I said, I think they need at least like 6,700.25 and then some secondary breaks maybe closer to like here, like 6703, 6704. So if they could, they're basically what they're doing here is they're keeping it above 9.2 but beneath 06. Does that make sense? So this is kind of like the mid bear zone range. Usually when you have, what do we call these again? What's the word that we use? When it trades between two different zones and it crosses over. Like basically it'll kind of be like this kind of range in here, but then holding off this kind of range right here. Does that make sense? Until one end breaks. Once one end breaks, that's how you'll have, you know, some better breaks or range. Kind of like closer to here. Probably like 2.25 points maybe. Like here. Okay? So like you can think of like 6694-ish, 95 versus 9293. Okay, 6702, 6703 versus 6706, 6705. I don't know, you should see a video though. So this is kind of the battle range here on both sides. Until one end breaks. Obviously if this end here breaks, we could see the 08, 10, 12 retest. This end here breaks, you could easily retest 8, 8, 8, 9, so on and so forth. Remember what I told you guys yesterday, how we have odds for like mid-range this week, especially because of where they opened? So far, the overall range on the session today is about 20, 5 points. That's exactly what we said yesterday, like between 25, 27, 28 points instead of like 32, 33 or like 22, 17. Is everyone else seeing video, or you guys? Yeah, you might just have to restart, I'm not sure. This is also durational till the close and obviously could still engulf, so this could create some issues. All right, where did they stall here so far? What did we say they had to break? Do you guys remember? 250, so like right here. Okay, so they tagged it. So that's good. And they did it ahead of these points here. And then we said that secondary reduction was close to like 3 or 4.5 points. 4.5 points is probably like right around here, around 6702.25. It should be between like that 67, like this was the first overhead here at 6700.25, and then we need a break of basically 02, 02.25, 03, especially if we measure, oops, off this, and ideally by this 248, 148, 150 period. Where's this reduction? It's a 4.5 point reduction, so it's quite a lot. Okay, 4.5 points should get you back to like 6703. Kind of like this range here, 6704. And then if we measure off that 02 area, or yeah, 6700.25, it should be close to like 6705. It should basically bring you back to reset your 150, your 1259 candle. Okay, so like basically your failed breaks before 1. Does that make sense, you guys? Because this is basically what put you at risk here for the 1 o'clock period, is it didn't close above 6705.50, 6706. So these kind of ranges and metrics kind of put you back at that odd. 136, 130 had some reductions. We have a window that opens up here at 148, 150. Okay. Let's do a pull real quick. This is clear 6702.25, 6704.50 by 1:50 p.m. I'm just going to set that to 1 minute since we're approaching 148 here. Can you guys vote on that real quick, please? We have more calculated periods around 2, 210, 212. Some really late periods around 240, 242. Likely close to like our 248 period. So if they don't break during this point in time here, we could be stuck for a while. I would prefer that they get out of this area and instead bring it back and digest up here. Does that make sense, guys? Like, I would prefer that they sit up here, okay? Even if it's for an hour or two, I don't care. I just don't really want them beneath 5706. Because then as long as you're beneath that, you're going to be at risk of 6692, 6688. Does that make sense? So if they can nest this in a more neutralized spot, that would be better for odds. We'll have to see what they do in the next 2 minutes. They don't necessarily need 06, but obviously that would be best case scenario. I think all they really need during this period is this 02, 25 that we said, right? And then 0350, I think it is. Here it is. 148 testing, that 670250. We'll see what they do during this time period. Pretty important time of day to see if they can try retracting back some of this range. I would prefer that they just nest us neutral this afternoon, especially at this point in the session. 149 testing 6703. Izzy wants to see if we can basically retract 6703.50, 6704 area. Getting back around 0450, 0550 would be the best for odds. It's not necessarily required at this point in time, but it would really, really help us avoid coming back and retesting the 6690s. Is everyone on the same page? So this is kind of the range here. 149 getting a break there of 6703.50. 150 testing 6704 in the first 5 seconds of that stick. Look at that. Look at the first 5 seconds here. As soon as this candle opens, 6704.25. Do you guys see that at 150? Perfect time and price here for ES. These are the exact ranges we want to see at this point in time to help mitigate some of this risk, taking it right back to the 6705. If we can tag 6706 at this time, that's going to really help us avoid staying stuck down here. 6705.50 being tested. What did you guys vote on that? I voted yes. It looked pretty constructive based on these sticks here. These are the exact spots that we want to be trading at this point in time. Yeah, Tesla held support really nicely here off 439 or 436. I don't know if you guys saw that. Like this is a clear trade on Tesla, especially around that 136 bar. Like this is a really nice setup. Tesla could get back to that 440.23, 440.53 spot. Hi, day's going good. I want to see if we get follow through here, guys, at 151. Can someone document this in the Discord? 151 immediately testing 6706.50. That usually implies progressive price action. That's a really good immediate test here, because now this puts us at an odd of getting back to our ranges here before 2 o'clock. This would help us reset. I had more calculated odds around here, but like to come back and retest 6714 by like 210, 212. But if they can get back into this box, like we said, especially at this point in the day, that's going to really, really help us this afternoon. Tesla stalled at 443 this morning. So, I mean, that was the max range that I had in mind for Tesla today. Apple also holding its core support down here, I think, helped the index a little bit. NQ made it right back to our point here. 24,796 being tested here on NQ. If anyone tried the long off that 24,735. I think we had a perfect entry, guys, on this long setup. If anyone tried it with me. Did you guys try the longs off the 95, 96, 99 area? So I tried the long off 9.6, and then I set a stop at 9.2. I set the stop a bit wider, so it still would have been below, like, low of day, because they still had an odd that they could hold it, even if they took it there. But I didn't want to not get stopped out, because I knew that they could also take this down to 8.8, 8.7, and that would be a pretty wide stop. Yeah, well, we're still targeting Tesla to potentially get to, like, basically the 460s we said, right? On Tesla. I lost my original template on it. I have to basically come back and rechart that. This hold on NQ, where's Eurotrader? Eurotrader would have loved this. This hold on NQ was so clean, especially to get back to like this range in here. That was such a nice hold on, that neutral zone here. So we said that we can basically, NQ could have a target range closer to this area here if these conditions are met in time. Whereas ES can have some odds of getting to 67.18 to 22. Especially if these conditions are met in time. So secondary conditions coming in now, guys. So let's do another poll here before this area comes to a close. What time is that? At 2 o'clock? Okay, so some secondary conditions post 148, 150, or if they retract 67.05, 50, 67.06, we have some odds of getting back to 67.08, 50, 67.10, 50. There were some odds that they can get back to the 1244 sticks as early as before 2 o'clock. I think odds are a little bit higher after 2, but let's just set a poll anyway. Reclaim 67, 1050 to 6712 area by 2 p.m. Okay, I had higher odds for after 2 o'clock, but can you guys vote on that? These would be the minimum conditions, I think, before 2, is at least get back to 08, 50, 09. And if you guys were paying attention yesterday, those were our minimum conditions. There were also some calculated spots, and they happened to close and open the sessions there. Did you guys see that? Right at the 08, 08, 50. And we did say that 08, 50, 08 were some minimum conditions for yesterday's session. So I don't think it's really much, but I think that they probably at least have to meet this area here before 2 for some continuation to continue, but doesn't necessarily have to break 12 or 14 at this point in time, I don't think. Okay? If you guys can vote on that, I'd appreciate it. This is definitely a point in time where they could start reducing range, by the way. So I wouldn't be completely shocked if that was the case. Also, reducing range during this period is what implies that they could delay this through those more calculated periods, especially if they want to consolidate these areas a little bit more. Like 6 points in range. Do you see how they did have some odds of getting back to 67.13 here? Like, just pay close attention, guys, because these windows usually can imply the type of range you could have had if you, let's say if we broke 67.08, 67.0850 here, they definitely would have had some odds of retracting back to here. Do you see it? Look. Isn't that insane? But they knew if they did that they likely wouldn't break the range. That's why you probably needed at least above 08. Do you see that? 08, 0850, okay, would have given you a break of that 4-4 stick. Does that make sense? Based on the implied range that they had during that period here. Usually those periods are calculated to give you an idea of the kind of range that could have occurred and the kind of range that you'd want to occur in the event that you come back and break. So it seems more calculated around like 67, 14, 50, 75. I voted no on that one. I didn't think that they would break during this period. I feel like there's higher odds after 2 o'clock, but mostly if they can sustain and hold the line here. So what do you guys think the conditions would have to be at this point in time? I'm going to give you guys a huge hint by putting it on the chart, but what do you guys think would be the conditions here at this point in time? Between now and about 2:10. Because having conditions is very vital to achieving the kind of range that you want to get, because we're still at risk here. $6,700.25 being retested here ahead of 2 o'clock. That was one of our first conditions that had to be met here, so sustaining here would obviously be ideal. These types of sideways sessions can be a little bit tricky to trade. You have to be extremely cautious of the ranges that you're trading within, like in terms of understanding range. You could have even taken some off here at 67.06 if you wanted to. Another thing that you could have done is maybe trade tomorrow's expiration versus today, especially this late in the day, and with it still having both sides open at risk of range or volatility. Also, this orange area is usually what I call like playing with fire here, and it always feels like that every single time you come to this type of area, because that's what it feels like here, because you're basically at risk of both sides. I'm going to watch the 204 period too, and 207 just because there's some early midpoints. Everything's kind of just flattening. Okay, what do you guys think? I'll set that for 2 minutes for you guys to vote on that. What is this? Oh, the roll. This is a more calculated time of day in relevance to the real-time session. During this period here, especially around like 2:11, I think it was. Otherwise, this could extend us all the way through to like 2:38, 2:40, 2:48. There almost always is some odds around the 2:28 to 2:30, 32, 36 window. These aren't calculated times, but we could watch this period anyway. So far, to me, this is looking pretty delayed. Okay, I'm going to remove some of these. I did say we want to watch kind of the midpoint here. Just ahead. 5 voted no, 4 voted yes. I'm not sure if they can tag 67, 12, and 14 at this point in time, but I feel like they could at least try tagging 6708. Or at least try to retest this area here. They held 6700.25 right here. Do you guys not see this? This solid structural hold, so they definitely have some odds. I'd say the midpoint around 207.08 though probably has to at least retest this 0750, whatever this spot was here. What do you guys think? Does anyone change their mind? Just quickly here, where do you think that they'll break range by that 210, 212 period? Because they held the line off 6700.25. 690? But why do you think it'll test 690 at that period? If they met conditions in time back here and if they held conditions in time here at 2. The only way that they could test 690 is if they... And they also just tested 6706 again here before 210 at like the 207, 208 midpoints. So odds of them retesting 6690 at this point in time are pretty low. And they wouldn't retest 6690 unless they stalled 6708.50 again. They won't just give it up that quickly, especially if conditions were met during this period here. They're not going to just be like, oh, okay, never mind. Let's go all the way back here when they met all the conditions that were required during this period here. At the very least, they'll always retest, especially if the prior conditions were met on time. Like, time plays a really big factor with trading. And this is a calculated period here for these breaks. What do you guys think? You think that they'll retest 6708.50? These were calculated areas from yesterday. It also happened to be the session close. I'm gonna add the 6708.50 on here. Highest odd was around 210, 211. Obviously, if they test before that, then they have odds to kind of push this a little bit here. MARA kind of retesting low of day and stalling here. There it is. 6708 being tested, guys, ahead of 210. This is a really important period that they test these areas at this point in the day, because this is what could help keep us extended till end of session today. Calculated time, testing calculated price. Can someone document the 210 stick, please? 6708.50 open at exact price for 210. This is a very, very calculated time of day, especially around these price points of 6708.50, 6710. These are conditions that have to be met at this period in order for odds to trigger. I did have some calculated range closer to 6710.75. I noticed that when I went back and looked at the range here, so we probably could mark that. 6711 triggered here off that 210 stick. That's a perfect opening stick, guys, for 210. Are you guys seeing this? They're putting those odds in play for getting a retest of 6713.25, 6714. I think we said that the reduced range that was implied had to be closer to 6714.75. 6713.75 being tested here at 211. 211 in the 30-second interval was the exact calculated point, so we'll kind of watch to see what they do off that 30-second mark here if they try turning this around. Are you guys seeing this? That's actually insane. They're retesting that 244 stick here. Kind of watch to see what they do off that 30-second flip. Nice. We nailed this. That was perfect time and price. If you guys want to go back and study something tonight, study this. This calculated period at exactly 6708.50 and exactly 6713.50 is insane. So if they're going to take out this 240 or 1244 stick, I would imagine it has to be at 212. 6714 being retested here. These were Izzy's calculated points in the day that could keep us extended till end of session, at the very least till 244, 238, 248. Super, super nice. Wow, there it is. They did it final 30-second interval, guys. 6714.50 being tested here. That's perfect timing, guys, for this break. That's exactly the price that we had to break in order for this to get that full range. What I basically did was I used the reduction that they had here, implied it off 6708, and it basically equated back to getting above 6714.50 at 6714.75. That's insane. That was perfect time and price on this, guys. Pay attention to this. Look. The 6-point range, if they were to push this, look, that would take out these spots here. Do you see that? Especially if they took it off of 67.08. Look at this. Do you see how that's perfect time and price? That's insane. Look. If they did the full range, it's probably closer to like here. Do you see that? Overall reduction in range is 7.25 points. Off 67.08, that gives us odd of retesting 67.15.75. So all you basically have to do to take out high of day is retest 67.15.75. All conditions met during our calculated period. This keeps us extended through that 240, 242. These were extremely calculated times of day to come back and retract and retrace 67.0850 through 67.14.75. We have higher odds of sustaining this time, guys, based on all the conditions being met. You know how we've usually failed 67.13, 14, 15? Hey? They have much higher odds this time of continuing. There's usually odds around 218 on a daily basis, so I mean we could just kind of pay close attention there to see what happens. Off 1244, we could use like the 4-minute interval, because that's in alignment with that, which is 216. Okay. Off the 22-21 interval, you could use the 3-minute, the 19-29-38. I'll just send these to you guys. So 3-minute, I would imagine, is probably linked with that 18 mark. Yeah, it is. So 16, 18 definitely have some odds here, especially if they can break this ahead of the flip. 215 retesting high of day here for real time. Perfect range, guys, in terms of price, 67.17.25. What do we have to trigger at this point in time? Don't get this wrong. What price do they have to trigger here? They can't fail it this time. We failed it the first time. What price do they have to trigger this second time around? In order to prevent us from retesting lows, which they could still do if we don't retract in time. What price point do they have to break at this period here, you think? Especially on these retests here. What does that 19-minute look like? 216. So yeah, 16, 18 are definitely the flips. What? Yeah, not 18. It's a little bit. Give me the exact number. We never tagged it the first time. And these are calculated price points. Yeah, at least 1825, ideally 1850. These are the points that we want to trigger to prevent us from backtesting lower here. There's some odds off this 216, 218 sticks that we can watch for. Let's see when that 29-minute flips over. 218, okay, perfect. 247. What about the 38-minute? 38-minute flips over 254. So they could keep it stuck inside till 254. I don't think that would be the case. And then the 58-minute flips at 218. Lots of odds at 218. So that seems to be the common point here. That's usually a point in time anyway, in general. Where did they stall this? 67.17? So maybe if they stall the 18 period, then they could be extended through this period here. We'll see. What do you guys think? How many think that they'll retest 67.18 off the 218 stick? 218 could also end up being a reduction stick here if they take this back down and delay. This is probably just the earliest period of retesting high of day. What do you guys think? I'd say that at the very least at this period here, they probably have to sustain that 67, like 13.25 to 12.25 area. I think because of those inside ranges we just saw too, that this is probably delayed. We'll see what they do in terms of the range though, because these are definite reduction periods through 16 and 18. So let's see how much they've reduced in range so far. 3.5 points. 3.5 points gives us the 67, 1850. Okay. Did you guys take some off in this range here at least? Especially off like the 212 and 215 sticks. We have way better odds of actually clearing 18 this time, but we'll see what they do by our 230, 236 period. We have the highest odds around like 239, 240, but I feel like if they break during this period here, they could expand us during this period here. Does that make sense? That's a really nice negation stick at 219. Immediate negation at 219, retracting that 67, 14, 25 right back above that 244 stick. We could watch that 3-4 minute like we said, so 321, 320, or 221, sorry, 220. Maybe see if they give some retest here. Just mark this. In terms of this. Did this help you guys this afternoon? I feel like today was kind of not a hard day, but like you had to be very careful with direction and like where you cover. It was a really hard decision trying to decide for certain if I want to take the long there, but it seemed like a good risk to reward, especially with a bit of a wider stop around 9.2. Well, that's good. I'm glad. MARA kind of just held the low of day, but still stalling here. This one I'm holding into this Friday, but maybe I'll roll these. All right, let's see here. They have some odds to retest at 2021. What do you guys think? Just, I don't feel like putting up a poll. Just, what do you think? Yes, no, in terms of retesting the 18? Those contracts are up 300% on that move. If anyone took those, even especially off those lows for same day expiration. Yeah, that is a nice cup and handle setup. Like even this right here, look. This is the handle, that's the cup. So maybe we do get the 28 area. I don't know. I thought that they could maybe stall like 2.3, 2.4 today, but I initially thought that we had odds for 2.8 and 30, but I'm not really sure if that's going to be the case. I feel like if they push during this time of day, I just have to see us hit 1850 first. I feel like once we hit 1850, I'll be a little bit more confident because they haven't even, like even off 6708, right? Like these are not even 12 points yet, but like once they hit these, then we'll hit 12, 13 points. Do you see what I'm saying? At that point, I'll feel way more confident that we could get 6726. 6728, 6730. We just have to get the full range, which I didn't think that they'll do, would be back to 4.1, 4.2, which is basically taking out the week's highs. I wanted us to get there today, but that was with the condition that they met those price points overnight, which they didn't. So I feel like they'll probably keep this in the zone today. What do you guys think? Another stall here off that 22 stick. I still think odds are higher during this period. Do you see that reduction stick here at 22? What do you guys think? You think that they keep it in the zone today, or you think they take it to the channel? Keeping it in the zone means beneath 3.2, above 8.8. So far, some reduction sticks here off that 21-22 period. Again, a little bit closer to the 20 mark this time. Okay, where do you guys think that they cap it in the zone? What price point do you think they cap? 67.19, 18, 67.22, 23, 24, 26, 28, 29, 30, 32. What do you guys think? I feel like if they can take out these areas at this point in time here, then we have some odds for the 25 to 28 range. There's even odds technically for like 30, 31, but it's going to be relative to what kind of range we hit during these time periods here. Yeah, me too. Even 2-3, I'd be happy. If they give us 2-2-2-3, I'd be happy. Those contracts did really nicely though, guys. Like those, if you went out of the money or like deep out of the money with maybe like the 663, 664s or something like that, those were trading around like 20, 25 cents. Off these lows. 224, like I said, I think had a little bit better odds than this period here. So let's see if they can retract some of this for the 230. I hope that they break this during the 228 to 232 window, because this point in time is more of a calculated point in the day, which I would rather they expand range during this period versus just meet minimum conditions. Does that make sense, guys? In terms of that? I had some, I want to reset this here too. Oh, it is. Like basically if we can meet these price points at this time, then it gives us way better odds of actually expanding at this calculated time. So, wow, Tesla getting some clear breaks to our 443, 444 price points here. That's a really nice trade on Tesla. 443.74 is the mark on that, if anyone tried that. This one, like we said, could go to that 446.80 spot today on some range breaks. This was a really solid hold down here and another solid hold off that 438 spot right here. It tagged exactly that 7.3 mark here, so pretty good odds that they can break this. You can cover some here if you want, but this looks really constructive to me, especially since ES has odds at 228 and 230. I wouldn't cover that. I would hold. That looks like it could get that push to 445, 46. Especially because ES is coming back and testing here just in time. ES getting those retests that we're looking for. Did anyone try the Tesla calls on that break? That was a really nice move on Tesla. Calls are a little bit pricey, but yeah, I didn't. That's a single stick break on Tesla, guys, on that wall. These were really, really good holds here. So if you missed these longs down here, these were the best spots for Tesla. Max support I had was 432.86, which it held. But this area here, I think it was more constructive though once it held above this area here. This was the best area for a long. This was the next closest thing, like probably in this range in here. And like we said, I would say that it had higher odds to tag 443.74, 444 versus stalling this area in here this time. So kind of like this. Do you see that? That would be like a cleared trade between here. Do you see what I'm saying? And that could clear it to that 446 area. So all right, let's see here. I didn't do the poll. What do you guys think? Do you think ES can take out 67, 1825, 1850 during this 228 to 232 period? That would be like ahead of these points in time here. The calculated periods are closer to like 230, 39, 240, 241. Usually 238 is a point in the day anyway, so we could watch that, but it would be best if they broke during this period here, because that's going to give us even better odds of getting some extensions during this period here. You hope they do, but you don't think they do? NQ finally broke this range in here. So NQ, we're looking for this area here, basically. I'm not sure if we had... I'm just going to set this to the 50 wall. You think that they're just going to wait? For like the more probable period here? Bubbles? This is basically the cutoff, guys, for the session. Okay? Like, if they don't start breaking around this period here, then I would start getting a little bit more concerned. 230 so far, just holding the line above 67.14, which is still good. It's 230, right? Yeah, it is. So we'll see if they can do it between that 230, 32 period, just ahead of like this well, technically they could do it between 236 and that would still be fine, but I figured around 232 would be best for odds. High here so far was 1725 and they stalled 18 earlier. Let me just set this 67, 18.50. I don't know if I had an alert set or not. I have to use the washroom too, but definitely don't want to at this point in time. Apple's still kind of hovering here too. Yeah, I don't really care to call it chop though. This is really calculated ranges in our zone and we could get some nice resets for end of month. Like 67.20s resetting would be great because we've been stalling these neutral ranges instead. I'd rather us reset in the 20s. Or at the very least, like the 16 to 19 area. So far, they're stalling here, guys. It's definitely looking more so towards this period. I do want them to hold the line, though, during this time of day. Because we wouldn't want them to fully give up the range either. Okay, let's do a poll here real quick. Clear 67, 1850 by calculated times of day, which is like between 238 to 241. I think at the most calculated point is 239 and 240, but I'm just going to include those in here. I'm going to set that for 2 minutes, guys. This is the most important time period now for end of session. 210 to 212 was crucial to get back these neutral ranges, but this is a very important time of day to try triggering that 67.18, 67.1850 again. Otherwise, we're going to be at risk of coming potentially back and retesting these ranges here and basically just recycling until end of session. This is kind of one of the final windows for end of session today. There is some more odds until 2:54 and 3 o'clock, but I feel like that would make price action a little bit choppier. So they're already starting to reduce range off 3-3. Okay, let's get as many votes as possible for this period here. Thanks for the point contribution. So this 3-5-3-6 I think are pretty important that they at the very least like try to retract back over this 1450, 1525 area, especially with this window coming up really soon here. I'm going to mark the 3-8 mark here. There are some structures that are stuck in an inside range until like 2:54 and 3 o'clock, but this was more of a calculated period, so I would prefer that they don't keep it stuck in an inside range, which is basically beneath 67.18. 236 coming back to retest that 67.15 mark. Either way, this was still a really solid long off the 66.90s. Even if they don't break at this period here, I still think that was a really good long setup off those lows. Okay, so they're still holding above that 14 spot. The 37 stick is going to matter a lot too, because you'd want to see this at least back over this 1550, okay? Like for some constructive price action to occur, especially if they're going to try as early as like, let's say 3.8, 3.9. So far, these are just like very, very tight stalls off these points here. Tesla stalling here too. Let's pull up the soundboard. 3.7 made it back over 16. This was the highest odd for a high of day retest here. $3.8 trying to retract back over that 16.75. Let's see what they do here. So 3.9, 40 had the best odds. We'll have to see. Either way, we still have to document the kind of ranges we get at this price period, or at this time period, sorry. So 17 was where they stalled, I think, the last time here, 17.25. I want to watch the 10-second intervals here. There we go. 67.17 triggered here. 67.18 retest. 25.50 tested at exact calculated time, guys. That is insane. We actually got that price point in time. That's crazy. That's a perfect time and price. 67.18.50 being triggered gives us really good odds to see if they can probably give some continuation through 67.22.23. I would be a little bit careful because they could still imply some volatility here. There's another stick that opens up at 41. That is insane, though. I think we deserve the golf clap. We deserve the golf clap there. That means our conditions are met. These are extremely calculated times and price. This keeps us extended till end of session today, guys. Conditions are all met for end of session. This keeps us in play till end of session today. You could take some off here if you want. Obviously, it's a big overhead. I do want to see how they react post this period because now this took us out of being stuck in an inside range till 2:54 and 3 o'clock, which can obviously help us extend during these time cycles. There's typically odds at 2:48, 2:50 anyway, so we can still watch those time periods here. You can use a 19-minute chart since that's aligned with the prior high of day. I think the 19-minute also runs till 54, so this was a really, really nice inside bar range break between 235 and 254. So at the very least, we can look to see where we can trade by 254 and 3. Perfect closing price here. See if we get continuation off 4.2. So 4.2 stick's going to be just as important because this is going to give us an idea if they break the 19 area. Look, 242 breaking range. 67.1875 taken out on the follow-through stick at 67.1950. Izzy thought that we could possibly see the 20s today. This is really, really, really good range for the session to keep us continue through end of day. Tagging the 20s for month end would really help conditions into end of Q3, rolling into Q4. That was pretty impressive, guys. I can't believe we hit exact price points here and exact price points here. So now we've got some pretty good odds of getting those 20s. Where did they open the actual session today? So I think this is now the 13-point break off today's real-time open. And we're getting pretty close to getting the 13-point break here off the actual session close. So 12 points is closer to 67.2050. 13 points is closer to 67.21.50. Okay, so off the 08, I think it's closer to 21. So this is 12 points here, I think. Yeah, off the 08, 67.20. So 20 to 21.50-ish is the 12, 13 point range, guys. Okay? Off the real-time open, we already hit those areas because I think real-time open was closer to 06. So real-time open, we already hit 12, 13 point ranges. So we have very good odds to be durational till end of session today. 67.20 to 67.21.50. That's the current overhead here. Off low of day, which is this 9.3 spot. This is the 22-point break right here. And like I said, there could be some overhead around 25 to 28 points, but ideally we want to try tagging like 32, 33, 34 point ranges today. That would give us like 67.25, 67.26, 67.28, which I think we have a really good odd of doing. If they give us full range off the session close, session open, a 44-point range break would mean that we have odds of getting back to the channel today, which is that 67.36 retest. That's off low of day. 67.37, 67.36 is also high of the week, so it makes total sense. So 44-point break, if someone can write this in here, break off lows is weekly highs, which is Izzy's 67.37, 67.44 area off the weekly report. That would only be the case if they can take out this 2.2 to 2.4, I think, before 3. If they decide to break this off of opening range, so let's say off 08, a 17-point break here is going to be around that 67.24. So lots of confluence around the 21 to 25 area. A 22-point break would be off 67.29, 67.30. Okay, this is off 08. Off 08.50, it's going to be closer to 67.31, which is going to be basically the top of the zone here. Okay, so there is a lot of overhead around 2.7, 2.8, 2.930, which means they could stall the top of the zone here, but there's a tiny odd that we can get to the channel today. Tiny odd, okay? So of getting back to those 67.33 to 67.38, 67.44 area. Most odds right now are pointing to those 20s, but we'll have to see what they do by this 5.3, 5.4, 4.850 mark. They just met that 13-point ratio here at 2021. Really nice work today, guys. Good job on today's trades. Those contracts, if you took them off lows, should be up quite a bit. At least 400% if you traded same day expirations on those. This is definitely an area, though, to take some off, guys. Like, this is a pretty big spot in the 18 to 20, 21, 22 area. If you want to hold still till at least 254, that's obviously up to you. I'm mostly looking to see if they can clear 2.1, 2.2 by this point in time, because that's going to give us a really good idea if we get some extensions here this afternoon. Thanks, guys. That was pretty impressive, wasn't it? I can't believe we're actually getting our ranges today. 67.22 being tested here. Ahead of 4.8. 4.850 was the next window to test these ranges here between 2.225 and 2.4. This is what could really help us extend till end of session today. There is a bit of a cup and handle like we drew earlier, so that could also help us in terms of structure this afternoon. I know that's the ugliest handle and cup and handle I've ever drawn, but let's see what they do here. MARA still hovering these lows. I think this is still relatively safe to hold. NQ finally triggering These spots are NQ a little bit delayed. Seems like NQ is more in line with 248 and 250. I didn't actually measure NQ's odds, so, but we can maybe track these points here if anyone's trading NQ. NQ triggering 67 or 24,850 off 248. ES kind of hovering this 672150, 6722 area. 6722.25 tested here right at 2:48 p.m. These are really, really big spots on ES today. This is another point in time and price being met here. My thoughts were if they can tag the 2.3 to 2.4 area during 2:48 and 2:54, they can have pretty good odds of extending this afternoon. Okay. Into the channel. That means that we have odds of getting the 6730s, guys. A lot of it's going to be relative to this. Most of this was relative to this, though. This structural hold right here, the exact points being met right here and right here, the exact hold right here of 6700, the exact break at 210, 211, 212, the high of day break here at 240. That's actually insane that this had the highest odds of that break. And they hit exact price, 1850 to 1875. 6722.75 being tested here. These are the spots that we need at this point in the day to help keep us extended for some potential extensions in the zone to 6728, 2930. With some slight odds of getting into the channel today. It's not super, super high odds, but they're still on the table. So we'll keep them on just as long as they are relevant. 250 testing 6723.25, which again, these are ranges off session open and lows. So off the lows, this is now hitting a 30-point ratio. So if we hit around 32, 33 points, it's going to be close to 25, 26, 27 off the actual opening range. 17 points is around 25. This is now a 13-point break here. Okay, off the session close, session open, which really gives us high odds of extending. The bigger overhead is closer to like this 2.5 area. Okay. Kind of like right in here. So lots of overhead in this range right here. Okay. From a weekly opening perspective, this is a 22-point break. So weekly opening, we basically stalled 38 points off the weekly open. Okay. That's why there could be some odds of getting like those 44-point breaks. And it would make sense too, because off lows, a lot of these odds kind of hint closer to like 37 and 40. So that's why we do have some odds of getting there. And if you read the conditions from last night, I wanted us to potentially get back to the channel today. I started losing hope this morning, though, I'm not going to lie. This was the most ideal thing for us, is to get back into the channel. You guys know where the channel is, right? Do you guys know what the channel is on ES? Where's the channel? Yeah, between 3.3-ish, okay, to 4.8, 4.9. So this area here to this area here. Okay. So if they can get it back in here before month end, that can really, really help us, okay? And it basically kind of reset the conditions of also where they stalled us here. It's not necessarily required, but it would be the best for odds, okay? Oh, I don't know if we have enough time to do that in real time today. Like, a lot of the overhead is around this 2.5 to 2.9. area, but we'll have to see. That was the goal for today's session, though. Was to... I feel like if they took out the 20s overnight, then those odds were super high. Alright, let's see what they do. It's 254, right? 254 is coming up. This is a really important period, guys, to see if they can break this range. I think the odds are closer to 2.5 though, so let me just mark this 2.5 spot here. And then we'll look to see where they can trade this by 3. It'd be the same thing for NQ, for those trading NQ. I don't see the Euro traders here though. Smos is here. Smos, do you trade NQ or do you trade ES? This arrow's... There we go. I'm gonna mark the 3 o'clock window here too. So where are they stalling here? 67.23? That's still okay. I feel like we still met enough range here by 5.4. I guess we'll look to see where we retract by 3. Like I said, you guys can cover some here, especially if you're long off the lows. Like, this is still a pretty big area for us, okay? So not taking anything off would be a little bit silly. I'm gonna just use the washroom real quick before 3. Do we have any catalyst, guys, for 3 o'clock? You too. Thanks, new guy. So stalling 67.23 here ahead of 3. I didn't look at any odds after 3 o'clock, by the way. I just figured it'd be durational till end of session if they meet those conditions in time, which they did. Sorry guys, I made a mess. Hold on. I wasn't gonna make a sweet coffee, but you know what? I feel like I deserve one today. Some of these went back into inside ranges here, so in order for this to stay valid, it has to try taking out highs before 313. So wow, thank you, Arun. Are you guys okay if I start deleting some of these flips here, just because trying to keep the chart kind of clean? It is also good to kind of see the odds you get, like usually within the first like 5 minutes of like the candles like flipping over, especially since we're using a 3-4 minute today. So you could watch like 303, 304. Okay. So that would give us some odds here for 0304. 0304. Did they test 2450? So I think the area is closer to like 25, but so there's a tiny, tiny window here. I don't really care to measure time anymore, guys, because this is extended till end of session now. But we can maybe just follow along some of the smaller ranges. We still have to meet this 25 point though, I think, for odds of continuation this afternoon. MRA getting a bit of a bounce here after breaking lows. Tesla kind of stalled that range there. NQ stalled exactly 24,852.50. That's something worth noting, guys, especially for ES2. I didn't even have my headset on. I forgot to put it back on. Off real-time open, we just hit 17 points, I think, right? Where did they open the real-time session, guys? You said 67.06.50 or 75 or something? So they broke it off the real-time session and they closed above it, so that gives us really good odds. I think it was here, yeah, like right here. Do you see that? Let me just fix this then so I know. Okay, so off the real-time session, they closed above 67.23.50. So it's mostly off of here, 08. Okay, you see where they stalled? That's off 08, so that's 67.24.75. You can write these levels down if you want. 67.24.75, 67.23.75, and then the big area that we have to kind of clear and break is this 67.25.50. Oh, sorry, I had 25, but it's this area here. And if they could do it ideally by like this 310, 312 window, that would be best for odds. This afternoon, that would put us at a very good probability of getting some like 22-point extensions this afternoon. 22-point extensions would put us around like 67.30, 67.31, 67.28. Okay? So these are the ranges that we'd be looking for on these range breaks. Sorry, let me fix this here. Okay. And around here. And around here. I think here, right? Okay. So I think those odds are pretty good. Like they're looking really constructive, and they're breaking ranges right on time too. So 67.25.50 tagging here ahead of 310, 312. This keeps that some of these structures in play. There's some really nice 3-bar continuation patterns here that could run until the close. Like this runs till 313, 332, 351. We could see some other structures. I haven't really taken a look. Maybe Brendan, if you want to help me. I didn't look to see if there's some certain flags, but I think it was the 37, 38 that were also aligned earlier, but I kind of stopped checking. Yeah, like this 38 is really good structure. That's also 332. Can you jot down 332, Brendan? 332 seems to be a common point in the session today. I didn't really see any other like major flags, but I don't know. If you see something, let me know. Maybe even off like the hourly frames, like these here flip obviously at 4, but like maybe off like, I don't know, an hour and a half or something. I didn't really check, but I would imagine that there was probably something just over, just under an hour. Like these. Do you see what I'm saying? You'd probably want these to extend. Target's crossing that 89.39 spot, guys. And we had that trigger set for today's date. Where's that one guy that gave us that trade? Like, see these? I'd want these to keep extending because we don't want some nasty bear flags. So if these could keep extending, that would be the best case possible. I'm going to double check something here, though. I want to check the, like, see even this? These are some nice continuation patterns. This is also 13-14. Maybe it is just off there. I don't know. I didn't see anything else. They're basically just continuation patterns. Hold on. 67.25, 50 tested here ahead of 313. 313, 312 seemed like they had the earliest odds for clearing this spot here. So far they're starting to stall a little tiny bit. There was a little flip at 14, so I'm just going to mark it. Till 36. Yeah, I would imagine that a lot of these would be around that imbalance period, right? Like between 330. 32 had a lot of flips, so we can mark that in a different color maybe. And then obviously the 3-6 period. I didn't measure NQ, but I would say NQ at the very least has to clear this 24.852, 854 area. Probably around the imbalance period too, otherwise that would likely be capping range. Because this one still has yet to break this 24.854, 58 mark to try getting back to here. What did I want to look at? I wanted to look at Target. Hey guys, Target had that range break. Where is it? 89.30. Wow, this is a perfectly clear trade. 87.55 to 89.39. And we said that this one had odds for month end. Before October 1st, remember? That's the flip date on this. And the idea was it had to retract at least back over 89.39, ideally 90.17, 90.52. This looks like it's setting up really nicely to negate that downside risk that this one faces for Q3 or Q4. I'm not sure where that one trader is, but that was the trade setup for this one. Okay, let me just clear that. I'm going to set that poll for 5 minutes here. NVIDIA was still moving the whole time. Apple was still selling too. But, I mean, Apple still held this range, so. Okay. Let me start clearing these up again. Since they still met these conditions in time, so. Can you guys vote on that poll, please? start setting some alerts on the upside targets. Obviously, the 67, 25, 50, guys, is enough to be considered max range, okay? Is technically enough to be max range per session. Because all conditions were met this afternoon, we definitely have odds of taking out this area here. And since it's durational till session close, but just be mindful that this is definitely enough to be considered a max range if you haven't covered anything yet from the lows, okay? Like, this is obviously some spots here, like I said, that you could take at least half your position off. I'm going to watch to see if they bring some range back around 318 through 21 and 24. Yeah, it's a 17-point interval from open, and it's also 32 points, I think, off lows, we said, right? 33 points off lows. Like, this area is hitting now 33 to 32 points. So it's a 17-point break off open, close, 32 off lows. So you obviously have to break at least 34 points usually to get some continuation. They did close above a 32-point ratio, which is usually pretty good. So 33 is around 2.6. We can just mark these on here. Hold on. 2.6. And then obviously 2.7. These are the 33, 34-point breaks off lows. Okay. This area here. So we're not going to extend unless we break that, obviously. And then off of the opening range, like we said, you break these areas here, you can get the 22-point extensions, which I already marked on here. It's that 67, 28, 75, 67, 30.25, 30.75. The biggest expansion scenario would be if they broke this into the channel this afternoon. That would give us the odds of retesting high of week and breaking 67.36 and tagging around 67.38, 39, 40. 41 is my max range for today's session. I didn't really think that they could take it higher than that. That would be 34 points off of the opening range, session close, session open, and it would also equate to being close to a 44-point break. So between 3.7 and 4.1, I feel like that would be a capped max range if they extend us this afternoon. Okay. And the only way that they could do that is, I would say that they'd have to break these 20s here during imbalance prints. Like, they'd have to take out at least the 2.550 to 2.7 area. Okay. And obviously clear these ranges here. I really wanted us to end up in the channel for month end, so I don't know. Odds are still on the table. We'll have to see what they do. What do you guys think? You think that they take it to the channel for month end? You think we get those 67.30s? Or you think that they're going to cap the 20s? The thing is there isn't any conditions they haven't met. So there technically isn't any reason for them not to have an odd. But they definitely would have to meet these conditions, I think, before, definitely before 350. Like, they'd have to be trading at least around here before 350. And it's month end, so there's some pretty big, it's not just month end, it's also end of Q3, right? So it's end of quarter, end of month, final quarter into the year. Heading back to the channel made the most sense to me, and just avoiding the zone entirely. Like, it's kind of like, if they really wanted to take this lower, they would have just broke down the zone. Do you guys agree? And I said it on the weekly report. I said that if they really want to take this down, they would basically just have to break down this range. If they give us a shitty open around 66, 96, 97, then they would probably end up stalling this area here, okay? And then that's when we'd be at risk of getting some major downside risk. Let me just set this. They did a great job of protecting the zone here these last two sessions. So I don't see why they can't take it into the channel. Like, it doesn't really make any sense why they couldn't. There's no reason. And they also tested 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, 3.5, 3.6 on Monday. What was the conditions from the report? We have to hold the line above 8.8, ideally closer to 9.3, 9.7. What have they done so far this week? They've obviously held closer to 9.3, 9.7. So there isn't really any reason why they can't bring it to the channel. And they've met every single real-time condition today too. So 6.7, 2.7 being broken here off that 21 stick. This is giving us really good odds, guys, especially if they break these areas before imbalance prints. I think we head to the channel. I voted 67.37 to 67.41 as my vote. This is a really nice SPX trade here, too, off 67.22 into the close. 67.28.75 being triggered here. You took those contracts, they're up 600% now off those ranges. And that was just SPY. Obviously, if you did ES or SPX, sorry, you'd have more range. But these are still some really, really good trades. 67.28.75 triggering here at 321. These were some of the earlier odds that I placed here, especially if they hold the line before 318. So 321 testing 672875. If they can test these areas during this 321, 324 period, we have extremely high odds of getting into the channel today. Especially if they're doing this ahead of imbalance prints. Did you trade them, Carbon? Thank you. This is the final condition, guys, that would have to be met, is this 30.7531. They break this before 330, 336. I don't see why they can't take this to 38 and 40, 41. These are obviously also areas that if you hadn't covered earlier, you could still take some off here too. I think we're getting very, very close to hitting 34 points in range here off weekly open. Off weekly range, 4.1 had the most confluence, around 4.1 to 3.8. The craziest scenario would be if they give us a 66-point range break. I don't know if they could do that. That would basically give us a break of all-time highs. I don't think we have enough time to do that. We'd have to have some sort of news for that to happen, and I definitely didn't have those cards on the table today. All I wanted us to do today was get back to the 67.20s and ideally into the channel above 3.338. So technically speaking, we've done enough to meet conditions, but it is month end and quarter end, and usually you can get some really aggressive price action there. Thank you guys too for those that tipped. That's actually nice of you guys. I think the next trigger on target we said was that 90.17 spot. Crypto coming back to 114. I wanted this back to like that 114.407 area into the close, just to at least help the odds for tomorrow, because we kind of got stuck in an inside range. Tesla trying to make a bit of a turnaround here. Maybe watch Tesla for the 330, 336 periods. So they brought it to 2.8. Like I said, if they break during the imbalance period, this is going to be really good odds of getting us to the channel today. What was the name that you wanted me to look at, you said earlier? I wasn't paying attention. It wasn't ZS, it was something else. Was it ZS? Target getting that 91 break. If anyone did those October calls on this one, we talked about this trade of, like, I think 2 weeks ago for month end to trigger these spots and basically negate. The idea was that if they want to really negate downside range, they would take it back to here before October 1st. That played out super well. I wish that one guy was on stream today. That one other streamer. What's his name? Why do I forget his name? But basically this sets it up to retest 104 and 107. So if there are buyout rumors, that would make sense. Sorry guys, I need to focus too because I have my own positions on. 67, 31, 32 being tested here ahead of 330. This is giving the highest odds that they're definitely going to give us some channel breaks this afternoon. I definitely see 67, 38, and 44, 41 on the table. A max expansion would be back to 6752, 6764. I don't think that we have to have that range today, but obviously if the market wants to give us that, then who are we to complain? That's a break, guys, of that 30.75 and the first test of it closing above that price range. And this is all occurring before imbalance prints around 328 and 330. Super high odds of getting to the channel today. This is what I posted last night at 9:30. Is I want to get at least back to 2228, but ideally get back to the channel for month end. 6738, 6741, 6744, 6749 in play for month end ranges. Anything above that is a bonus. If they gave us full range of 66 to 68 points, then that would basically give us odds of getting back to here. Okay, guys, so like a 66, 64 point break would be like 5.7, 5.9, 5.8. I don't think that we have to get that, but that could be in play. Okay, so that's obviously a lot of range that could still be left, but if they expand us this afternoon, especially because we haven't even had imbalance prints or like our 350 window, we have odds of getting to the 67.57 to 67.64 area. That's also off the weekly report as some expansion scenarios that could occur for month end. Expansions are 6757 to 6763 area. Okay. That would only be probable if they break the channel. Like if they take out, let's say, 3.8 and 4.1 before 350. So far, they're stalling off the top of the zone here at 3.2. That's the first reduction stick we've had since this uptrend here of 3.25 points. That's probably linked back to that 3.6 area, which is like the weekly high range, right? Like around 3.550, 3.6. Tesla getting back to 444 ahead of 330. NQ broke those ranges. These are kind of the spots that we're looking for on NQ for the 330 period, with some slight odds of getting to this area here, we said. So kind of like this was my max upside on NQ. Mostly if they could break this range in here. Who is trading NQ? Because NQ is actually a really good structural hold. Look at these breaks at 24. So your first area is around that 24,875 to 880. Max range on NQ was closer to this 24,904, 911 spot. This area here. Okay. Is ES getting a zone break here, guys? 6732 being retested here, right at 330. Izzy's thoughts were if we can take out this 3.3 to 3.4 area, especially around the 3.30 to 3.36 period, we have extremely high odds of expanding this afternoon, especially since it's month end. I'm just setting alerts for these really big spots up here. Expansion implies getting back to these ranges here that we failed to meet last week. These are also off the weekly report. 67, 61, 63, 57 are extremely calculated price points above 38, 41, 44. Let's see what they do here. Tesla also clearing 43, 43 at this point in time. So this is putting Tesla at an odd of expanding here too this afternoon. These are huge trade, guys, so I really hope you caught them, especially off those lows. Those contracts were literally 20 cents, and they're now almost at $2. That's a 10x trade on these, and that's just off SPY. That's not even at SPX. Three, 4 break here at 3-1. We're in the channel, guys. See how much range in the channel we can get. Like I said, if they can tag this 3-7, 3-8, this area here, I have to mark the 3-7 spot because that's the calculated area. Especially around this 330 to 336 period, we have extremely high odds of expanding this afternoon. If we got a channel sweep, yeah, that would be. They haven't digested the channel though, right? Remember how we said we could see some month-end channel digestion? I can't pronounce that word. Because one of the issues that we had, guys, is the channel is usually a digestive area. Notice how they never digested this area. They swept it up and they swept it right back down. Do you guys see that? It's on the weekly report. So we have odds of digesting the channel for month end, which was why I figured we could get back into the channel today. So that's why I'm not getting my hopes up too high. I'm still happy with the fact that we even got above 3.3, to be honest. So if they don't digest the channel again and they take this to the 50s and 60s, what does that imply? If they take this back above 5.7, stall 6.4, what could that imply? No digestion of channel and another break to 5.763 could imply what? MRA getting some breaks into the close here. I wanted this one back around at least 1840, 48 into the close. Volatility. Yes, yes, we could have some volatility. So just keep that in mind, okay? Especially if they don't digest the channel. Digestion of the channel would be the best case scenario for us, which is why I would actually prefer not to get to the 50s or 60s today. 30s and 40s is a lot healthier for us in terms of range and constructive price action. I don't usually share this on YouTube, but there is Fed right now too, so there's just some headlines coming out. Three, 4 stall. How many points is that off lows right now, Brendan? Or anyone? 41.5? Okay. So yeah, they're getting super close. I'm only concerned because remember how I said they could give us half point ranges too? Like half of like 3-4 and 4-4. So there could be stalls around like the 3-8 to 4-1 area, which would technically be right here. And we'll see what they do post the 40. Obviously going to watch the last 10 minutes. There was a flip at 410 later in the session, so we could watch that. I think that 19 minutes on its fourth bar here too. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you guys see that? Some exhaustion at 332. And that flips again at 351. 352 is currently high of 332 is currently high of day. We did say that that was a multi-flip, right? At 332. Didn't I mark this in a different color? 332 was an odd for exhaustion. So far that's high of day at 332. That extends till 351. Midpoint of that is probably close to like 340, what time? Like 344? $42.5. Maybe around here. So if they can turn this back around in like the next 3 minutes, then it could negate that downside range. MARA retesting that 1830 spot here. I kind of wanted this nesting above 1838 into the close. It doesn't necessarily have to go green on this session because it is a nice inside bar. I would keep this on extremely high watch tomorrow. This is setting up for a really nice 3-bar flag on the daily on MARA. Especially because they sustained the range super nicely today. And they broke that 1857 yesterday and it managed to close close to 1866. NQ getting some stalls here right at this spot that we talked about earlier. So 24,880.75 I think has to be the breaking point in order to tag these ranges. What do you guys think for max ranges on the session? What did you guys vote for earlier? I never actually got to see that. What was your votes? Mine was 3-8 to 4-1. I didn't know if we could break 4-1, but I figured we could probably get 3-7, 3-8. What do you guys think? Who voted for 4-1 plus? I do want to see if they can try holding the line here, though. Tesla kind of consolidating a little bit. Apple finally getting a bit of a better break. Crypto testing our spots again here. Well, these midpoints I think are going to be important though because we are still in an exhaustion period until at least 351. So if they start breaking down range, especially around this point in the day, like ahead of like this 341.42, like 3.75 in range is a lot. That would have been probably enough to get it back over 3.4. Yeah, it is. Well, you have to also remember too that there's still 20 minutes left, right? And they were only like 2 points away from the high of week. Not even. Do you see what I'm saying? And about 2.5 points away from that 3.7 mark. So they have to be very careful with the kind of range that they give here. Reduction stick at 240 or 340, sorry. They have odds to negate off the 4142 stick. These are the half point intervals of this exhaustion period between 332 and 351. This is the market's odds of basically giving up range if it wants to during this period here. These are the midpoints of this period, so it would be pretty important that they try turning this back around really quickly, especially off like the 30-second interval here. And I think it's basically meeting this 672825, like these ranges that we talked about before. Let's see what kind of follow-through sticks they get here. That was a pretty big reduction stick though. Well, these are all very pinnable ranges, right? Like between 18, 22, 23, 25, 28.75, 30.75. So it's not that they owe us anything really above these ranges. It's more so if they want to extend us on the session today. Mostly based off these points in the day here too. Oops. So what did they do here? They held that 2550, guys. 2550 was the 17-point range, right? This area here. So I would say that their conditions probably have to be that they need to get back above this 2875 to 30.75 before 350 in order to keep this intact for some end of session breaks. Otherwise, this could be pinnable in these ranges here into the close. How many still think that they'll get 3.7 to 4.1 into real-time session close? I'll set that to 3 minutes for you guys to vote. That way it's just before 3:50. Yeah, well, it is tricky though because they're still holding above like 2.2 and 2.5, but they're beneath this area here. Do you see what I'm saying? The risk above is the same as the reward below, so, or the risk below, sorry, I mean, is the same as the range above. Like it should be around like 4 points. Do you see that? And this is probably close to like the same range, like 3.5 to 3.75 points. So once you get back over 2.875 and this the 6.730.75 area, then you have way better odds. I would say especially if they can do it before 350, so like around 348, 349. Same with Tesla here. Tesla kind of holding the line between these ranges that we talked about. NQ trying to retract back over this 24.85254. Do you see that? 6730.50 retested here. My thoughts were if they really want to save this range, they probably have to hold 2550, which is the 17-point interval. Retract back over 672875, 6730.75, ideally before 350, probably around 348 to give some odds of reclaiming back into the channel before 350. So what do you need to get into the channel before 350? Don't get this wrong. And the poll is still up, guys. Can we get some more votes, please? What do you need to get into the channel before 350? 6732 being tested here at 347, 346. Them holding the line at 2550 was really good for our odds here. What do you guys need before 250 or 350? Yalla. At least. I would say probably over 3.3. Like over 3.3 would be the best case scenario, like probably above here. Okay, like where I have this arrow drawn. A bit of an inside candle here at 347. There's about 2 minutes here before 350. Did you guys capture the majority of this long? I really hope you guys did. Especially with this structure break right here. These conditions being met on time gave us extremely high odds for this staying durational till end of session today. NQ just needs a little bit higher here. I'm going to set some alerts on NQ above this area. It's mostly like this 24.880.75. Okay. This is essentially going to help us determine the ranges we'll get here for the last 10 minutes. I want to see us break this 3.3 mark here before 350. If they can tag high of week, like the 67.36, whatever that spot was, before 350, that's going to give us really, really good odds of getting max range scenarios for the session today. 67.33 broken at 348. That's exactly the spot that we want to break. We're back in the channel here and ahead of 350. This is giving us odds of retesting high of week here before 350, which can give us odds to push right at 350. High of week is 6736. Calculated range is closer to 6737.25, 6738.50, 6741.675, I think. 30 seconds to go. This is where I said we could see some really nice end of day SPX trades, guys, in the channel. 3.6 broken just in time, guys. That's insane. They're triggering 3.7 here. 38.25 being tested. 3.7 being tested right at 350. You can easily take some off here, guys. These are huge, huge, huge spots for us. I'm going to leave some on in case we tag 41. But this is a really big area here for 3:50 p.m., especially them taking this out. I don't know if you guys saw that. They did this the final seconds. Did you see this? That's insane. Look at that. That was the final second of that break where they took out 3-6. And then right at the first second interval there of 3:50. There's a flip at 3:51, so that's why there could be some volatility here. They could easily flip this back up at 3:51, okay? There's a flip at 3:51 today. That's not usually common. 38.25 tested. That was exact metrics. This is giving us extremely high odds for our 4-1 spots to trigger today. Top of channel is 674875. I would still prefer that we stay in the channel though. 3-8 tested and being broken here at 5-1. I want to see if they can take some breaks above 39.50. These are huge spots, guys, for the index into month end and quarter end. And exactly where we need to be to help put us in a better balancing position into the new quarter. Okay? They're actually doing it, guys. This is insane. Thanks for those that tipped on the stream, too. It actually means a lot because I miss a lot of trades when I do these streams, especially on big ranges like this, because I can't always capture as many trades as I want if I'm streaming. We still have odds here for our 5-4, 5-5 sticks. This is durational till end of session, like we said, so that usually when things are durational, it means that they hit highs right at the close. NQ testing this area here. So NQ we figured could get to, to here. Here we go. I still haven't covered yet, guys. This will be my cover here at 4-1. 41.50 taken out here ahead of 5-5, 5-4. That's setting us up for some really good odds of breaking the channel, guys. This is a channel sweep. Channel sweep means they take out 3-3 to 4-9 in single stick breaks. That doesn't happen very often, but this is happening for us today. That was my first cover, guys. That was my first cover off that 4-1 spot. I had pretty good odds that they could tag that 4-1 area here today. Anything above this is technically considered a bonus. I think off weekly opening range, the odds are closer to 4. This is exactly 34 points here, guys. That's insane. You think that they could give us a 66-point break? Back to here? That would be nuts. If they actually tagged 5-7, 5-8, that would be insane. That would be a crazy end-of-day SPX trade. But they technically broke enough range for this to happen. So I thought that they could stall 44 points, which is basically stalling like 51, 52. If they break 4-4. But, I mean, I don't know. We have to see what kind of range they give us on the 5-5, 5-4 sticks. 44 points is closer to like here. Off the lows, we already broke 44 points, okay? So there isn't really too much range left here, like if they're gonna break. Unless they give us some crazy end of day stick. Like 41 to here seemed like max range, but off the actual real-time session though, like for lows, what is this? Can someone document 5-1, 5-2? These are huge trades, guys. Like, I bet you not many people caught the full range on this. That's actually insane that we were able to capture this way ahead of them even getting anywhere close to being near 30s or 40s. This was my thoughts from last night, that they could easily get back to the 67 40s today if they want to balance month end and quarter end for the closing candles. 4-1 to 4-4 has a lot of overhead. This is definitely enough to be considered max range, hence I covered off the 4-1 stick right here. They're not expanding range at 5-4, 5-5, so they're well aware that these are very calculated spots. No. It keeps it on track. This is exactly what we need, and I would prefer that they digest the channel overnight. I don't want them to take it to the 50s, guys. Just as an FYI. I don't want them to. If they do, that's going to really mess up our price action and the way that PA has been a bit more constructive. It's the best for odds if they take it to this area here and then digest. Okay? Because if they end up sweeping it back to here again, we could have some volatility again. Okay? Does that make sense? So them keeping it in here, pinning around 3-8, 4-1, 4-4, that's the best case scenario for us. That's exactly what we want to do for month end. This is exactly what we want, okay? The channel is between 3-3, 3-8, 4-1, 4-4, 4-8. This beige box here. And we did it. This is where we wanted to end up. Can you guys see my center screen? This is exactly where we wanted to end up, guys. This is perfect for range. I know it seems kind of whatever, but you don't understand how much this helps us for month end, guys. This is really, really good for month end. Okay, getting back to these areas here. Channel triggered for month end breaks. 6741, 6744, 6749, best area to trade to nest and digest for end of quarter. Pin the close, guys. Where do you think they're going to pin this? We had some odds after the bell around 410. I already covered. I only have 2 runners left, just in case they triggered above 4-4. But I figured 4-1, 4-4 is good enough for me. You guys know I held the entire way. You guys know I never sold anything. I held the entire way up. I actually never covered because the odds were so high. Every single one of these conditions being met made odds extremely high that they would bring this to the channel for end of session today. I'm just mad though that I didn't trade any SPX trades though. It's really hard for me to trade SPX when I'm streaming. So if I would have done SPX, I would have done it right here. Okay, around 318. If I would have done a second SPX trade, I would have probably done it off this 346 stick, retracing back over 2.8. Okay, these were the 2 SPX trades for this afternoon. I know I didn't trade it though. That's part of the reason why I don't like streaming sometimes. I know it helps everyone else, but it doesn't help me. It puts me at a disadvantage. Because I can make way more money not trading than I do streaming. I mean streaming, sorry. I want to see if Target can close off this this spot here. No, Katie, it's okay. But they're huge trades. Like $2 to $30 is insane for SPX trades, especially if you know the direction. I still did really good though on my SPY and ES contracts though. 67, 37, 25 is a good pin, guys. Anywhere in between these ranges here is good for pins. This is exactly where we want to be for month end, quarter end. We'll see where they close us for the actual session. Thanks guys for tuning in. I'll see if I stream again tomorrow. Any questions before I end the stream? Or are you guys all good on your end? I still think that this is really good for us into overnight. Conditions for overnight is going to be probably just to digest the channel in the upper core areas. So probably the thing is we still have odds around here. I would say that 18 to 19 area is probably going to be like a major overnight support now. Okay, this area in here, and then ideally digest the channel. Okay, I don't even care if we have a really slow start to October. If they're just digesting this area here, that would actually be the healthiest for price action. For now, all conditions were met for us to stay extended till October 16th. My theory for September was that we just ramp up and kind of catch people off guard with very limited downside volatility, and I think that worked out extremely well. And there's odds of continuation until October 16th. They already broke. I want to show you guys this too. This is a 357 to 346 point break, guys, off September lows, which I thought was pretty cool. If you look at this and that was off the 18 spot. If you look at it off opening closing ranges, where they started these areas here, like this 6708, 6706, these were the 256 point ranges, which is really interesting. And it makes total sense that around the new zone, like 6790, 6796, 6800 is where there's going to be some overhead. At July candles. Oh yeah, because we had that. There's also a really nice flag too, right? So remember how we said that we've got some really nice 5-6 day flags on the report? So a lot of these they're on the report, but I'll just show you guys them before I sign off. A lot of these run till October 6th. I know it's stuck in an inside range, which is partially why they might stall the means again. Does that make sense? The means, guys, is 6752 to 6757, 6764, okay? That's an area of volatility that can keep you back and forth. We are stuck in inside ranges on these time frames, which run until October 6th and 8th. So there is some possibilities that they might keep it stuck. The 9 days are really important frame to watch too, because this could set up for a bear reversal for October 3rd if they don't clear enough range in time. I would almost rather this go back red, if anything, or at the very least try to push up range. I think it's the 30, is it 33 day? Yeah, 33 day runs till the 16th. This kind of started off August 29th. These are kind of our structural candles, also October 8th. So October 6th through 8th is our next period that we're going to be very cautious for. Okay. 31 day had its flip today that runs till the November 12th. We've used the 22 day a lot this year. This also runs till the 16th. Okay. A lot of these were like mid-range odds, like between now until basically month end. 16 day also runs till the 8th. 15 day was a common frame that we've been using all year. Same with the 45 day. These are linked with the 2022 lows. Okay, so September 22nd was the period to negate and could kind of keep going. This is the fourth bar, so a lot of fourth bar ranges usually have like a battle, if that makes sense, between whether or not it wants to exhaust, expand, stall, okay, and then continue. So that's why I'm thinking that if they keep pushing this, this is the fourth bar here, this runs till the 16th. You get what I'm saying? We're basically in a potential expansion period from here for the month of September through October 16th. That's, you could use the 33-day. This is the frame that makes the most sense. This is also running off our annual ranges from October 7th and 8th when we trigger these lows. The last time that they stalled this was February 20th for Q1 and mid-quarter back in Q1. So this range back here, annual range is around 1,384 points. Okay. Let me unadjust this. Okay. Do you see that? 1386. Okay, these are annual ranges, okay? Do whatever you want with that, but I'm just trying to get you guys to see, like, these give us odds basically of trying to retract at least partial range. So from here on, like, this was probably like 3/4 of that range. When they brought this back around, and I'm just doing a quick recap for the quarter. Okay, this was very crucial that they broke back above these areas here. Do you see this? It's around like 1380 to 1379, 1384. Okay, do you see this? When they came back and tried testing this, this was so important that they negated and that they held structure here. Do you see this? You can just use these August 1st and 2nd candles if you want, or 4th candles. So if you want to measure off the actual closing points right here, okay, these are kind of the conditions that you have to hold above, close above, especially if it's like that 1380 range or whatever we're looking at here, like around here, let's say. Okay, do you see this? If you're ranging off the 7th and 8th from these open closing sticks here, are you guys with me? I'm only going to go over this once, so because I went over it so many times. Do you see where they're holding the line, you guys? These are extremely calculated annual spots to hold, okay? Them holding 66.11, 66.21, 66.13. This is extremely calculated. Make sure it's unadjusted so that you can actually see the reflected price points. Are you guys listening? These areas now become overheads. Do you see it? Okay, so there's going to be, it's usually around like 1379 to 1384, like give or take. And a lot of this aligns with these 70s. Kind of like this range in here, like 6775, 78. So those would be some really good spots to give us some breaks to by end of quarter, or like into the new quarter if they can. And all of this can basically give us those extensions to 6,900. Okay, do you see it? 7,000. That's how we could have 7K for Q4. Okay, everyone's on the same page? 7K for Q4 would basically be almost a 346 point break from these 6720s. It's basically a 346 point range break from these structural candles here off the 25th, 26th is what it is. 346 to 356 point extension. Okay, and if you want to measure it off, let's say these ranges here, like 1384, would give you around, so let's say 7.9. That's exactly 7,000. Isn't that crazy? Okay, so that's my goal for Q4. Whether or not we're going to actually trigger 7K, I mean, obviously is going to be relative to how much range we can get the first 2 weeks into the quarter. But that's what I was aiming for. Another way you could look at this is them basically doing, like, even if you did half that range, this is already a 346 point break right here where they're holding the line. Another thing that you could look at is, like, usually when you break 689 to 692 points, that's half the range. Okay, that's also the 7K marks. Do you see what I'm saying, guys? So it's basically getting to like this 60, what is that? 6, having a brain fart here. Hold on, 6. What would that be, guys? 6988 to 7032. That zone. Okay, that would be the zone that could give you some really big structure breaks for end of quarter. And typically when you get a 50% break, you extend how much? How many points can you extend, guys, if you get a 50% break by mid Q4? So in other words, if you hit 7K by mid Q4, what kind of breaks could you get there? That's where you could get your 1,000-point moves, right? So like 3/4 of that is probably close to like 73.60. I didn't really have super high odds that we would trigger these by end of year, but I mean, these are kind of the ranges that we're working with now. Max range on the year was closer to like a full range scenario. I had these more for like 2026, but this is kind of the areas that we're working with right now. Okay? So a lot of these structural holds are extremely calculated. They're not a coincidence. And a lot of these are based on the exhaustion candles that we had from 2022. Okay? This is kind of why they stalled around here last year. Not exactly, but you get the point. Okay, do you see that? Do you see it? Isn't that cool? So you're basically starting off into a secondary period here with these ranges, which is what gets you to basically around 7,500. The odds we had were for like mid Q1 of 2026 for those ranges to occur. Obviously that could change depending on how much they extend or expand us. Okay, but kind of like this area here. Another thing that you could do if you're not really someone that works well with, if you're not someone that works really well with calculations or math, you could also just do like the fib breaks on this. So you could probably apply it using the midpoint of the bar. Do you see this? So this is the midpoint here of the 3-bar. Usually when you make a 3-bar candle, you run until at least the 4th candle. So 2026 is potentially what? And I want everyone to be prepared into the new year. 2026 is what? This is why we went long 2023, 4, 5. Okay, we've been in a durational long setup, and I said this back in 2023. If you guys remember 2022 in November, December, I said that we're setting up for a 3-bar continuation until 2026. We're in a 6-year cycle until 2026. What's 2026 setting up for here? These are also the quarterly increments here. What's 2026 setting up for? You guys think? Yeah, 4th bar, right? That's super important because that's going to give us an idea if we're going to exhaust or expand next year. So potential volatility coming in for 2026. This is kind of the bigger overhead area here around like 68551 52 in relevance to these structure breaks right here. If you want to kind of measure off these ranges, you could too. It's kind of like the 4808 annual range took you to directly that 5917 break. Okay, these were kind of the stalls. So you could easily use these too if you wanted. Do you guys know how to apply that fib? Apply it off the 12-month. Apply it using that exhaustion candle from 2022. It's going to give you the most accurate ranges, okay? So on this kind of a cycle, we've already broken 6614. Do you see how that also aligns with that annual range? Like we said, 6611, 08, 14, those are super calculated spots. So technically speaking, we've already broken that range, okay? If you want to apply this from, you could apply obviously 2 fibs on here, but if you wanted to apply this using the actual bar right here, okay? This right here, this should be pretty close to where you're trading. Do you see this? Guys, look. Do you see the overhead here? Around 6678, 6628. Do you see it? Kind of like right here. These are really calculated prices for Q3. Okay, because you're basically hitting that 75% range. Typically when you hit a 75% range, you have odds to extend 25 to 27%. So there's a lot of confluence around that range. These are just some fibs that you could use if you wanted in terms of structural support for end of year. And this is mostly off this bar here. I still think that you'd have to break like 9.3 to get into that zone, which makes sense because when we measured this, there was also some odds there. Okay. And if you kind of measure off the exact ranges, I don't think you have to measure exact. I feel like we still had some range back here, and it's pretty correlated. If you look at these fibs, look, this is exact. Isn't that crazy? Like, those are exact ranges. It's just more so structured off of these structural holds. So apply those if you want something more simplistic. I feel like this would be a lot easier for some of you that struggle sometimes with ranges, okay? So this is the exact same thing as basically getting like that 693, 94 point break here. Do you see what I'm saying? Off these spots right here, like off this quarterly close. Does that make sense? Like these closing points here, it should be the same thing as basically breaking that 688 to 690 point break. It's the same thing. It basically leads to like 60 or 7,400. Typically when we stall those, sometimes too, they can stall 66 point metrics, which they did a little bit here and then broke back. I think back in here too, they did something similar. But I feel like we're tracking 75% ranges. So just an easier way for those that, so this would make sense then if they're going to pin around here, like these 20s. Okay guys, I'm going to sign off. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you guys tomorrow.